Hi everyone. I was just watching this testimony of a woman, one of the Jeffrey Epstein victims. Um, and the thing is I have looked at the Virginia Giuffre case. And I mean, I read, there was a book, when Jeffrey Epstein was first arrested and killed. There was a book that went into it. I forget exactly what it was, but it was, it gave the basic facts. Um, and, I mean, the sugar baby uh, industry has been booming in New York City. I mean, oh, you can go back to the 1800s, and I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it was a whorehouse for courtesans. It was, you do have the upper crust, I mean, you see this in the Virginia Giuffre case with Ron Eppinger, um, and that was, what is traditionally been defined as human trafficking, um, of slavery, holding people against their will and locking them in a room, putting them in a room, and having a series of men come in and, do whatever they want. Um, so, and that we've got that in the UN reports, that's in the hundreds of millions of people per year. This is aggravated by refugee crisis, which of course is caused by conflict, famine, and war. And who are the principal promoters of that, apart from the governments who actually do it, is the World Bank and the UN and IMF. They've just become, they were supposed to stop all of this, but they become social climbing entities for people wanting to come to the United States with PhDs and lots of fancy titles from either their country or our education system, which since the 1960s, under affirmative action, has opened their arms to, a flood of immigrants. 75% of those with PhDs remain in this country. I forget, it's in the statistics of, I know I pulled this up already in the Candace Owen stuff. Um, I forget, but I think it's around 50% or so, maybe 40, but I know 75 for PhDs, somewhere around 50 for MBAs, and I forget for um, regular bachelors, 4 year. However, that's not only has it caused a brain drain, because the idea behind all of that, this development, and Jeffrey Epstein was very, very much involved in this entire world and the development world. All of these scientists and everything, these are the same people, they're one of the attacks on Prince Andrew is the money, the excessive money spent going to Davos for the World Economic Forum. And I told the guys at the IMF and World Bank, I mean, they come in and have lunch where I work. So I get my elevator speech in. I even made a mistake on an order yesterday. They wanted two burgers or whatever instead of one, and I'm so much with my spiel because I know the IMF and World Bank get discounts, so I know real quick. One of the reasons why I'm at, oh, are you IMF World Bank? Get a discount. Oh, did you know? Da, 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 da. I've been telling them, check out my stuff on the monetary stuff. Oh, real bad for them. So anyway, yeah, this is, this is why also I'm so pissed and like with the public, it's like, wait a second. You're all upset about Virginia Giuffre, and she was a sugar baby. By the time, check out her memoirs that I'm reading, and the ones that were prepared at the beginning, the psychologist had already gotten a hold of her, but that's the testimony you can really rely on because that was the original one. By the time that the lawyers and psychologists had gotten through the Me Too ones, she'd say whatever they wanted her to say. I mean, one woman said that what she was, telling the courts or, you know, accusing the man of was not true. And they were like, well, who cares if it sticks, it sticks. I'm like, what? I mean, you don't make up, or you shouldn't make up. It's criminal to accuse somebody of a crime that they didn't commit. Um, and it's defamation to say somebody did something when, if it's a tort. And I mean, if I say, oh, she's wearing red pants, I'm not creating a tort unless it's illegal to wear red pants. Uh, this is where the whole freedom of speech thing is completely out of control. I've had my freedom of speech. I've been fired from job after job after job. Yet all of the journalists that I'm lobbying about the problem in the courts, oh, well, that's, too bad for me. That's, I got off the bandwagon of the labor markets in DC in the 80s and I missed the boat. And they got on board the little yacht with all the billionaires, like Epstein. Um, yeah, I'm like, the boat you got on is a Titanic, y'all. So, everybody's involved. This is for years. I'm like, here, I prepared cases for the courts. I've got names. Okay, I wasn't in the Epstein entourage, but I was amongst the Spaniards and the French, and I was in Brussels. I mean, well, in Brussels, I mean, we had a few friends, but most of it, I was at home with I was pregnant. When we got to Brussels, we were there for 4 years. When we got there, I found out, I quickly found out I was pregnant. I was very, very happy, but I was like, what am I going to do? Start a job? Um, because now that I was married to a European, before that I had an issue with papers. So what am I going to do now? Get a job and then I have the baby and what, no, I mean, so we had been in Madrid for a year. So I'm like, okay, I'll take Spanish classes. I could do it through the Le Marie, the public, like the public library, if you will, type of issue. And then I took French as well. I mean, I was put in the highest class of French, but it helped with my writing. My writing is still not good, but so for 9 months I did that. That was 25 hours of classes a week, and yeah, and so it kept me busy. And then I had the second baby. So anyway, I digress. Sorry, I was taking a trip down memory lane to when my children were such happy days, Brussels. So anyway, yeah, you know, so But no, particularly in Bogota, my kids are in school, and I become very, very involved in the expat wives clubs, the expat communities. I mean, my ex is the director of the Treasury Department of Banco Ganadero there, which is one of the biggest banks. This is a subsidiary of BBVA. Um, so, I had uh, how shall I say it? And, this is high standing, whatever you want to call it. But this is precisely so many people are so happy to see the socialite fall. I mean, the jealousy that's gone on in the past 20 years. Well, actually, because it all kind of started when my ex crashed and burned. I mean, between him and his brother, he's the banker, and his brother is the he has a company of immigrations, let's just say, in Spain. So but I've been silenced, discriminated against, persecuted, but I represent white privilege, so, and I've been offered up as a sacrificial lamb by everybody in the Epstein networks who want to silence any dissent. So, everybody, oh, these poor victims, and I remember two girls I worked with in DC, young women, and I even said to them, oh my gosh, you have a very, interesting, beautiful face. You should think about, doing some modeling. There's nothing wrong um, with that, but when it gets into the high fashion and uh, they want. I mean, they all by the time there's a in the film on Melania, or somebody who was doing a critique. Melania, she came to the United States. I think she was 24. She was too old. That's an old lady in the modeling business. They start often prepubescent, but uh, they'll start at 12, 13 with the photos, 14, they'll start 15, they'll start going on trips by themselves and be in apartments in Paris and London, New York. This has been going on for a long time. Twiggy was the first top model. That's the 70s London. London post World War II. I mean, Paris had been so decimated, it took them a long time to come back. However, I have to say, 1950s, 60s, Chanel and Parisian high fashion uh, probably was the height. The you see it in the 1950s movies with like Grace Kelly, um, Audrey Hepburn, just classic. The things that people are wearing today, oh my God. Sometimes in one restaurant, particularly, I worked up in DuPont Circle, Mikasa. Oh, yeah, that's the one of the corporations that's a whole other can of worms that I'm gonna have to get into in a video. But the corporate restaurants and celebrity chef world, that's a money laundering, just like the art. Uh, so, and human trafficking. Yeah, so anyway, um, since I'm a respectable was this boring stay-at-home mom, respectable, I'm despised, they got they don't have anything on me. Um, I walked away from all of this glitz and glamour that all of the nouveau riche have been so like falling all over themselves to embrace. And unfortunately that, for all of the people, the ruling elites, this is what all of these podcasters don't understand. Um, the the ruling elite are really the 10 percenters, because those are the lawyers, the bankers who do not, I'm not talking about the CEOs, the guys on top. I'm talking about the six-figure salary guys, not the seven. Um, so, that's they're what are really what maintain that greed, unbridled greed, because they make the laws, they enforce the laws in the courts. Sure, the people at the top have money to buy a certain portion of the 10 percenters, and the question becomes how how many of the 10 percenters can they control? How many people are immoral enough to drink Kool-Aid and pass out Kool-Aid and say, nothing to see here? Oh, yeah, nothing to see here. The reaction of Erica Kirk and TPUSA versus the reaction of Candace Owens, and other podcasters. I mean, everybody's pointing to her. I keep on pointing out there's many others. There's Gary Coldman, who's also been following that strenuously. Ali Files, oh, John Bray, but he just goes around shocking himself. I mean, God, I want to say to John, excuse me, not John Bray. This is what is it? Jordan Henshaw, who's goes around shocking himself, um, to prove that this is a fake Hollywood scene type of thing, the shooting of Charlie Kirk. But I'm like, just look at Jesse on Fire's uh, videos on the whole subject of Charlie Kirk is alive and this was just a fake Hollywood thing. You don't need to go around shocking yourself. Jesse did a very good and compelling, argument. I still, there are too many people who said he saw Charlie Kirk dead and that he would have to have been this amazing, like the best actor in the entire world for that to have been fake. So, that's where I'm kind of like, okay, explain that one. But that's why I'm like, I'll listen to any of your theories, but you're gonna have to present evidence, and it's gonna have to be, something other than, we'll look at this piece of paper, okay? Um, you know, this is like with the photo of Virginia Giuffre with Prince Andrew. Now, it has been clearly established that Prince Andrew was in the orbit and a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and it was through this international development community, Davos, World Economic Forum, but then you also got the IMF, World Bank meetings here in DC. It's the same can of worms. It's just held in DC twice a year. You got the spring and the annual meetings. And, it's incredible how much money that these organizations spend for a bunch of assholes to come here and party hardy and have extramarital affairs. And I am sure there is much, this pizza stuff going on behind closed doors, because they were in, as I say, some of these people, of course, not everybody in the place is a cannibal. I'm not saying that. However, there are, this is all the same group of friends that don't like me, that I'm not popular because I want to clean up the courts. And then, of course, many of them would be in trouble. That's why I've been ostracized. So, there's the Me Too feminist and all of those lawyers. Gloria Allred is at the top of that. You've got Lisa Bloom. I mean, I don't know if Gloria Allred was involved in any of the actual filings in the Jeffrey Epstein case. I know I've seen Lisa Bloom's name in there. There's David Boyce as well, of course. He's always there. So, these are a group of feminist lawyers that have, I keep on saying, if you file malicious litigation and you introduced into the courts evidence that you know is false or testimonies that you know are false, you are in serious, serious trouble for criminal activity. And it shouldn't be allowed. I know it's allowed. One of the first lawyers I met with in Madrid told me I was being stupid and ridiculous because I was not only upset, horrified that my husband was once again doing some stuff that could get him into serious legal problems. I mean, that's not my intention, and I'm sure that's what he's afraid of, and I'm sure that's, oh, I can just imagine how he has gaslit everybody. But the thing is, except in the case of my sons, and I have wanted to keep them out of everything from the beginning. Everybody, the lawyer even told me, your sons, you have to buy your sons. I'm like, my sons are not for sale, you people. You are the people in the court and the people, the particularly family court, the lawyers, everybody who works in that whole system are the scum of the earth. Really, I know they've been brainwashed. You can read it's the feminist literature. Themselves, these women are explaining how the rights of women have been and are being completely destroyed in family courts and in courts in general due to misogyny. So, all of that is being silenced, yet, all of these models who jet set around the world, listen to this. This is the lifestyle that everybody dreams of. Listen. Oops. Let me make sure. Yep. I didn't have that turned on. Okay. Let's listen.
At least there, and maybe some other places in Europe, there is some accountability that's being taken. What do you know about that?
I mean, I packed my bags. I was working in the stock market, making a lot of money, much more than anybody I knew. And it was the '87 collapse, but I was like, these people are even more immoral and corrupt than the people up on Capitol Hill. So I packed my bags. I went to live in as au pair. And I mean, I was a real au pair. The little girl that I used to take care of now works for the central bank. I'm like, oh Lord, I sent her an email. She hasn't responded. I'm sure it's like, oh, Quenby's gone crazy. But anyway, yeah, I was a real au pair, and um, had a room in Paris. You see these beautiful, they're called Haussmannian because that's the architect, Haussmannian apartments. And at the top of those, you had the servants' quarters. And since at least I don't know, the 60s, 70s, they have turned them into student, or, they'll rent it out to students mainly. You do have immigrants as well. And I mean, sometimes that's a problem because you'll have 5 or 6 of them in this one room, and it's like, no, this is in violation of the housing codes. But the one of the biggest problems and what they're notorious for is you've only got one toilet. You'll have a sink usually hopefully, in the room. But you'll have a toilet at the end of the hall. And, bath, you're going to have to either use the sink and kind of do spit bath or go to some public bath. And they do have some in Paris. I mean, you wouldn't find that in the States, but at least when I was there, you did still have some public baths. So that was an option. And I mean, particularly with the homeless problem, we should bring them in here. So, you know, I get the jet setting, but I'm sorry, I wouldn't, let's just say I wouldn't have I was walking away from that world, of course. I wasn't a top model, but I was one of the financiers.
Well, because I lived my first few years in England and then graduated high school in Belgium and spent half my life in Europe, I've done a lot more European press than most of the survivors. I think do a lot of American press, but I do a lot of international press. Just because I know that
these girls have been given red carpet in the press. Now, I can't even get, my favorite is with Baron Coleman and Patriotic Housewife. Apparently, Patriotic Housewife stole some content from Baron or copied something that Baron had said. He got pissed off. He said he was going to destroy her, which in the courts, and she's crying or something. And she's looking for content about crime stories and things. I'm like, oh, Lord, do I have a whole bunch of stuff I could give to you? Let's sit down and talk. I send her an email. I had actually spoken with her a couple of days before because about the Baron Coleman incident and explained to her what I've been doing. And I said, I have lots and lots of stuff for you. And never heard back. And she lives in West Palm Beach and her husband is military. I may be jumping a leap here, but I'm thinking he might. Okay, so this is West Palm Beach. He's military. He could be one of the pilots. You have a lot of private airplane services and stuff around that area for the jet setters, Palm Beach. That's what he might be doing. Now, it might be something else, but I do know he is ex-military that live in West Palm Beach. So, I'm like, wait a second, this shit is still going on. And I'm being silenced, not only silenced by the press by not giving me a voice while these little ladies are being given red carpet treatment. But I can barely keep a roof over my head, and I'm getting bullied even by 20-year-old snot-nosed brats that I'm working with. And I have to put up with it because I'm afraid of getting fired, and then I'd end up on the streets. So, this is like, wait a second, podcasters as well as journalists, what's your motive here? Because it's obviously not addressing the underlying problems. It's about making money.
A lot of after I was a model, I had after I was a model, I was.
And also, why are all of the Epstein survivors, the problems in family courts, the problems that homemakers are having, opting in homemakers and stuff like that, there's no solidarity from them for us. Oh, no, we're gold digging whores who lost their meal ticket and, should either go and jump off a bridge or go and find yourself a new meal ticket husband. 20 years your senior.
A scout, an international scout for big agencies. And so I would travel a lot to Eastern European countries like Bratislava or Lithuania and Poland. And so I was still absorbed in this world. So I was seeing what was going on and happening. So I have like an understanding of of Jeffrey's ties to that part of the world in the mauling industry. And so, whenever, and then also,
I mean, I went to boarding school with these people in England and Virginia, and then at GW, not only at the school, but then I had to, because I worked for a Democrat, and I went to go and work for a Democrat as an intern in the mornings. And so my mother, since it was a Democrat, she disowned me, and I had to pay my way through school. And I got a job in nightclubs in the evening, and I saw the cocaine. One place I worked, it was, you had limousines and long lines all over the place. And I used to, look underneath. If I saw 4 feet, I'd just be like, ladies, I don't care what you're doing. I got to pee and I got to get back upstairs. So you let me pee and then you can do whatever. It was all over the place. That's why I left the United States. And also, one of the guys that I worked with, he was also a male escort in this whole world. And, he said, my God, you're educated. And, okay, I wasn't a top model, but, I know how to put myself together. And if you want, here, I'll get you hooked up with this escort service. You don't have to, this is the same type of thing. You don't have to sleep with these guys. Many of them are just businessmen coming from out of town. They don't want to have dinner alone. They might take you to the theater, whatever. I'm like, look, I wasn't born yesterday. I know the score. First off, I prefer slinging hash than being an escort. I find that degrading. And I wasn't born yesterday. Sooner or later, it's gonna, you're gonna have to sleep with them. So thank you for thinking of me. That was very kind, because it was in good faith, but thanks, but no thanks. And I slung cash. And then I made lots of money for a couple of years as I wasn't even a stockbroker, but I traded with this guy, for this guy. He had a trading program. So I got enough of a taste of it, and I was good enough that my next step would have been to have gotten my Series 6, my Series 7, go to New York. And I mean, I had always been, very good in math. And it was always evident that I had inherited my father's brains. I guess with my older sister, it was kind of like, well, she was the straight A student. So, but I think even she and I both, and my mother, knew that when it came to the intelligence of my dad, I was the one who got it. And that, read the book Tripping the Prom Queen, I was like, yeah, that explains the dynamics of the women in my family. So anyway, it is what it is. See, this is also, I have, believe me, when I've never been sexually assaulted, thank you, and I hope I never will be. And that's one of the reasons I want to stay out of the streets, because my probability of being sexually assaulted there is very, very, very high. So yeah, putting up with a snot-nosed brat who sits there on their phone, and I've got to do all of the work, is mild in comparison. So, but the thing is all of this is still going on, and the only thing anybody cares about is giving victims a voice and making yourselves look like some benevolent person while you're turning around a blind eye to the same crap still going on in your communities and families.
So my story started on the island seeing Prince Andrew there, and my story ended in 2004 with a girlfriend that had a story about Prince Andrew. Right. So, I do a lot of press over there because of, what I know. And so, yeah, I went to Dublin, and did the Late Late Show and had a really great conversation, about over there, and met with some people in England, and have been doing some press just to bring awareness and try to corroborate the stories of others over there. Mainly Virginia Giuffre.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, by the way. That's
Yeah, mainly Virginia Giuffre, who I hope everyone will please read the memoirs, because there is no mention of any kind of assault when she's with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, she does mention this behavior with Ron Eppinger, who she was with previously when she was 14. So, and the issue that I have is that the attack, until somebody can give me some actual evidence that Prince Andrew did anything wrong, I will stand by my conviction that the MeToo people are just going after him. He is innocent of wrongdoing. They're going after him because he's, this trade representative, and that gets into commerce, and they don't want anybody raining on their parade. And he has, precisely as Prince, he would have, if he wasn't a puppet, he would have the power and authority to set things straight. And that's also why I'm defending him, because that's what needs to be done. And here she says that she's on the island. Jeffrey Epstein says, "You want to meet a prince?" This guy gets up out of the pool, comes up in, puts on a bath towel, whatever. "Hi, how are you?" And leaves. And she doesn't see him. There's no wrongdoing. Now, the thing is also about the island. Now, just logically thinking, if you are doing something on your island that is immoral or illegal, and you don't let people on, and you keep everything very, very secret, and you never have anybody invited except people who are sketchy, or like he's only got children over there, or young, anybody under 18. What's going on? So of course, for New Year's, all the billionaires were out in the Caribbean, these Caribbean islands. I mean, if you've got a Caribbean island, I'm sorry, who out there who does not want their own private Caribbean island with a yacht and to hang out and go and invite all of your friends and say, "Come and hang out on my island"? I mean, that's, like a lottery dream come true. So, of course, and same thing with the ranch. There are many people who went to the ranch. Just because you went to his ranch, or his mansion in New York, his Paris thing, I'm still looking into. That kind of looks like an offside, but I don't know what was going on there. So anyway, but New York, Palm Beach, his island or his ranch, he had people coming and going all of the time. And this is the thing. Oh yeah, Jeffrey, he liked them young. Because all of these men have sugar babies. Most of their sugar babies are over 18. I mean, a lot of them, they're in, I don't know, it's this thing. Now they're in college. There are even many who are paying their way through law school with this. So this is a thriving industry, which was started by the feminist. Well, okay, that's unfair, because prostitution is an age-old industry, and even marriage markets is an age-old prostitution industry. And that's precisely what this women's rights movement of women working outside of the home was supposed to, fix for women. so they would no longer have to sell themselves in marriage or in prostitution to men in order to survive, because they were restricted from working in other professions. Just like religious groups. These were, and that's why in the whole affirmative action stuff, even though they constitute 50% of the population, they consider themselves and call themselves a minority, and have been considered a minority within affirmative action and getting them into positions into labor markets. But that's only if you obey. The thing is either you have to brown nose the women or you have to sleep with the men to get ahead. Because it's not based on merit, it's a nepotistic system. And it's worse than the nepotism that existed under the WASPs, that discriminated against, other races and other religions. And the women were, and I mean, this is only since like the 1900s, 1850 for some, but a very, very small portion of the population, as I say. And up until 1950, you still had principally agrarian societies. Women were in the home, in the home, working, baking the bread, cooking the food, taking care of the children. They would do the education, the homeschooling, while the men were out in the fields or hunting. So there was a division of labor. So what we're talking about here, this societal structure where the woman has become completely useless and just considered a baby making machine. And somebody, the rest of the time, she sits out and, at a country club and goes shopping. And that's all she does. And the government is very happy that she spends all of her time shopping, because that makes the GDP keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And look at my stuff on monetary systems and monetary problems. And you'll see all this stuff about the GDP and getting women into the labor market. And it's not to liberate women. It is in order to concentrate wealth into the hands of government coffers and rich and powerful. Sorry, my throat. So, this is not the success story that they're all painting by, with, models, former models, having wonderful lives after they leave their careers in which they hopefully didn't get sexually assaulted.
Tragic. She was very brave. I mean, she was really out there pushing it for years and years and years.
Yeah, she was very brave.
Definitely did some amazing things for representing the victims. But there were, who was it, Deef? There's like was it someone in Norway has already been arrested? And then my question for you was, are you hearing about like them doing investigations now in England and in Ireland on some of the people that they have tied there?
Well, I mean, the justice departments in these countries in Europe and Scandinavia are very different from the United States. As we know, in the U.S., they haven't done anything. But in Europe, they're
different. This is something that they all fall back on. I mean, I have been looking at the problems in judicial systems for 20 years, and they are all very similar. You do have some structural differences, and that's why we need the lawyers on board, because they're the experts in these structural differences and how to do filings and what exactly we're looking at in terms of laws and jurisprudences, but they're all the same. This is another, gaslighting of the MeTooers.
They're investigating. Yeah. They're looking into whoever was in the files for their country. They're asking for the files to do a further investigation. And I know they are in Ireland, I think Lithuania and Norway.
Good.
Yeah. So all these people.
Megan Kelly, she even pointed out, she's like, oh yeah, we all know that trick. They want documents, they want files and stuff like that. You give them a whole bunch of stuff that's completely irrelevant that they're going to have to look through. But you know, and they know you're not giving them what they want, but they got to look through that and then say, no, this is what we want. This is where the games come in.
That were mentioned in the files, maybe they're innocent, maybe they're not, but at least look into it.
Yes.
Right. At least take that next step and call for the files for their country or flight logs or whatever and do your research. So I don't know. I love to see that these nations are doing what they should be doing. If
enough of them do it, maybe it puts some pressure even on the big dog in the United States. If enough.
Now, if anybody would help submit my cases that I've prepared to the international courts. As I say, we've got the International Criminal Court one with Barbara Stone. Now, is that being considered? That should be pushed through. My case is in there. I mean, my case really challenges the jurisprudence of Gonzalez Carreño versus versus Spain. That's 2014 Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. So technically, if we're filed with the ICC, then we don't file elsewhere. I mean, technically with my case, this is, again, we need lawyers on board. One of the lawyers, the human rights people sitting on this, is Amal Clooney. So see, there's stuff going on here that changes the story of how dedicated all the MeToo feminists are into cleaning up this problem, and the conflict of interest of the podcasters and journalists who are not covering the continued crisis in family courts, child protection services, foster care, adoption services. This gets in, the Sasha Riley is yet another case that has come to light. It's all still going on.
Enough of them do it and then see results, and their people, like the people of those countries, then get the press of it, and they're like, this, what?
Yeah. It's so crazy because in the US, there isn't really the empathy. I don't know why we're lacking so much empathy here. Even when I do media, I don't know if they're just told to be stone cold and have no feelings, but I just hate doing media in the US. And I've done quite a few of the major, broadcast networks and things, and I just don't enjoy doing it. But when I go abroad, Ireland, the UK, Germany, Australia, they've
been going in on this case
No, they go in, they care, they want to get the answers, and then they also want to do something about it.
Right.
So it's totally different. Like, what's your story? And they have empathy for your story and what you've gone through. And then that empathy feeds into, connecting the dots and looking into who, even it's in their prime ministers or people that are really important, they will do the right thing and they either resign or take further measures, but at least they do something. It's always to do something. In the US, it's just like, oh yeah, let's hear your story. Oh, that's good. Okay. Or that's great. But what else happened? What else happens after that?
Well,
my God. What about off camera? Are they?
I've been lobbying journalists globally, and in fact, there's 4 celebrity journalists, or is it 5, from Cobham Hall, who I want answers from. Let's see. There's Marianne Seigart, author of The Authority Gap: Why Women Are Not Taken Seriously and What We Can Do About It. I keep on saying, behave seriously, and you'll be taken seriously. Then there's Anjali Rao. She's in Australia, but she's still considered a Brit, I think. Or she's an Aussie, whatever. She's in there as well. There's Alex Crawford. She's a war correspondent. I'm sure she's having a field day. Now, these are all journalists from my alma mater who have ignored my emails. Michelle Hussein. I loved it when she's giving attitude to Elon Musk about not being very smart. And it's like, excuse me, you bimbo? Yeah. So,
Like once the cameras go off, are they like a real human?
yeah,
They just always have an agenda.
There's,
So they ask you,
international. Oh, and then don't even get me started on Spain. Whoop, lots and lots of them. Hey, Pablo, what is it? Oh, I can't forget. He's a correspondent here in DC.
questions and you say one thing about Trump that's leading you to say something, then the headline is about that. It's like, I didn't even talk about Trump. They like make you just to have a headline. And I've always said, not to say that he's guilty or not guilty. It's just, that's not my agenda, because I know there's so many other men that are involved that were abused. I know of many, many girls who have gone to that island and that are forced to have sex. Passport taken away and forced to have sex with somebody they do not want to have sex with.
Passport taken away.
They take your passport away. There are girls that have tried to swim off that island. Where do they think they're going? I have no idea. But they're scared,
Yeah, I'll bet.
They're scared. That's not what they were thinking of when they were naively going to an island. Yeah. But I have girlfriends that were made to go into a room or in the middle of the night, somebody comes in and just has sex with them and leaves. It's really gross, to be honest with you. It's really gross. But I mean, I've seen some of those names in the files, but until a survivor comes forward and says, we're going to rally behind this and come forward, most likely those men will just get away with it. So.
I think sometimes, like when you look at like content creators, there's people take themselves way too seriously and think it's way bigger than it is. It's like, dude, you're talking to a camera. It's not that big a deal. Yeah. What I will say when it comes to a story like this that has released so much investigative files publicly for us to review is that when you look at all these shows put together, and there's literally millions, if people can keep their eye on the ball with this and all review the same evidence that we all have a chance to review and do each of our little parts to keep it on the front burner, if you will, maybe we can get 10% of what we deserve to get. I'd like 100%, but you know what I mean? It's hard not to be cynical. I mean, you know better than anyone what I mean. It's hard not to be cynical.
Yeah, I mean, if the DOJ had just done their job, the FBI, the DOJ had just done their
Now, I've been looking for lawyers on both sides of the political aisle for years and years and years. I took the women's rights groups at their word, the domestic violence groups at their word. They want to help the victims. I said, here, I've had this, I prepared. I can't find anybody to help me. So I prepared. I read the Spanish Constitution. I prepared my own case, their civil code and their penal code and the international conventions, because the Spanish Constitution integrates Human Rights Convention into their constitution. Now that none of this is being applied in the courts, but that's only because you can't get anybody to do it. I've knocked on the door of Baltasar Garzon. I've asked Ingrid and Astrid Betancourt. She's good friends with Baltasar Garzon. Could you please tell Baltasar Garzon to get off his little podium and actually file some stuff in the courts? Nobody wants to do it. I mean, all of these human rights organizations, it's fraud. It's fraud. It's just, Washington is filled with canvassers who just want money from you. Oh, they hate me. They stop me, and I start telling them about the nonprofit they're asking money for, and they're like, "Oh, I gotta go. It's incredible.
Their job. And taken the people out of the files and investigated them, the survivors and the people would know you're doing something because we would see actual action happening. Then they wouldn't have had to release the millions of files to the public.
Right.
But you have to remember, they don't care that the public sees all that. They know they're going to be like, and disgusted by it for a few months, and then it's going to go away. Yeah. That's the least of their worries, just giving that to the American people, because they know nothing's going to happen from that. What should have happened was when they had it for 15 years before they released it to us, or 20 years.
I've been posting all of this stuff on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, telling people, and the only thing, go away. Nobody wants to hear about this. Nobody. A friend of my mother's in London, her children went to Hill House. Her sons went to Hill House with my brother. That's where King Charles went. She said, this has been going on for so long. There's nothing we can do about it. Princess Alice was locked up by Freud himself.
How long has it been? 25 years before they released it to us? They should have done something about it.
Of course.
You know, these calls have been coming in since the 90s, and the files only start from the early 2000s. They don't even go back to the 90s when the most depraved shit was happening.
Yeah. I don't know. This is where it gets into speculation. I have to say that because we'll never know. I mean, you didn't even come into contact with him until 2001, so I guess you don't even know.
2000.
But 2000.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about the 90s and stuff. Jeffrey Epstein in the 90s especially, you can go back to the 80s with this for sure, but especially the 90s, once he's like the man, money-wise.
Yeah.
He was very well known in the high-level New York socialite circles.
Yeah.
But he was not known publicly at all.
No, nobody knew him.
When Page Six did the story in September 2002 about him taking Bill Clinton on his jet, then suddenly, who's this Jeffrey Epstein guy? Then he brings in Vicky Ward in March 2003 to do this whole, like he liked the attention. And then he got known. So it's like when I see these files begin then, I do wonder what kind of incompetence within every law enforcement agency and espionage agency we have known to man here in America might have occurred at many levels at least prior to that time. And now that you start...
That's ridiculous because there's, Wallace Simpson and Albert, Edward. I always forget Albert, what his name is, but I remember her. Okay, Edward the Eighth. The FBI were watching them. And because of their, amoral activity. Same thing was going on with Lord Mountbatten and Edwina. The authorities have known about all of this stuff, come on, for a long time. We all know that. CIA, FBI, the FBI had the books, the all of the information were the ones who was following Wallace Simpson.
Start to make that case.
And the Mountbatten.
And I'm sure you ask yourself this a lot more than I do, but like, why?
Mountbatten, we all know who are, involved in family court reform. It's like, he was a pedophile. Oh, yeah, we all know.
Do you let him cop to a plea of soliciting a prostitute? I think it was like a barely underage, like 17-year-old. And then, he basically had house arrest for all intents and purposes. Why? They had the whole case.
Well, there were 43 accounts.
That's right.
Of young girls who came forward and had the same exact stories of what was going on. Yeah, that sweetheart deal of just saying they were a prostitute. They weren't a prostitute, so, well, I don't know. What I know of Jeffrey Epstein from back then is he did not want anyone knowing about what was going on.
They weren't a prostitute. I'm sorry, Virginia Giuffre was a prostitute. Sugar babies are prostitutes. I agree with Sidney Biddle Barrows, who, this was the Mayflower Madam. She was arrested in the 80s for running a high society call girl escort service with the rich and famous clientele of New York. And she was arrested. She had a $5,000 fine and a book deal, and Candice Bergen played her in the TV movie about the thing. So see the social norms that has been promoting this stuff, not only turning a blind eye to it, but promoting it for generations.
He was not public. Nobody knew about him, and that's the way that he liked it. I think he was furious when in 2002, Page Six did a story about him. He did not want his name out there because he wanted to be able to be incognito and nobody really know what he was doing. And I think the more known he got.
If you're involved with CIA and well, I'm thinking, actually, no, the CIA, they have a lot of actors and stuff like that. Jim Carrey said that on the Jimmy Kimmel show. Yeah, but normally, if you're involved in illegal or immoral behavior, you want to keep a low profile.
The more scared he was because he was supposed to be under the radar.
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah, he was always under the radar. Any event you would ever see him at, he'd pop in and pop out. He was not a playboy. He was not in the limelight. You never saw pictures of him. You never really saw girls around. Around him like that. So he didn't like that.
Not like Donald Trump. Donald Trump, you did see always in the limelight.
Vanity Fair did the article about him. He was furious about that as well.
He's furious after it came out, but he agreed to do it. He brought her over and did. That's
Yeah.
what I wonder if there's like a.
Well, he had to do it. Yeah.
He had to do it.
Yeah.
Why do you say he had to do it?
Well, because people were starting to understand about, who he was. And so he felt like he had to, just put it out there of what he was doing, and more like a philanthropist, and like, just trying to clear the air of who he was without saying what he was really doing, and his ties, to people. So it was kind of on the surface. It wasn't like what we know now about him.
Of course.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. No, he did not want his name and who he was out there. Yeah. Cause he would call a lot of us and been like, are you talking to the media? Talking to the reporters calling you? Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Oh, he would.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I would never have said anything back then. I mean, I only started speaking out because he died.
Right.
I would never have. If he was alive today, I wouldn't be here.
Did you, and I want to get to your story in a second and we can do that linearly, but in the years between 2004 and when you last saw him and 2019 when he died, obviously, you were abused. So there was compartmentalization of that went on and everything. But did you live in a constant or more like subconscious fear of him?
Maybe subconscious, but I think after I left New York and moved to Los Angeles in 2004, I didn't have any contact with him. He was starting to be like found out, the articles that were coming out, and he was being investigated. So I think he slowed down a little bit. I think from 2004 to 2006, I think those were the years he slowed down, because he definitely picked it back up later. But I just went on with my life. I was married by 2006, was pregnant by 2006. I just literally did not think about that man again. And the stuff that I heard like in the news, I just didn't read the news. And and I kind of just didn't even want to go there, like kind of in my heart that he was involved with like underage girls, someone who has put their hands on you, and trying to think of him as a pedophile and stuff. It really grossed me out. So, and they have to understand, nobody really gave a shit back then. It wasn't like a big news like it is now. So, I just kind of went on with my life for the next 15 years and didn't really think.
It wasn't the press, not interested until the press is interested.
That much of it. Yeah.
You said you were born in England, and I think you were telling me off cam that your father was in the military. So you traveled around Europe a lot as a kid?
Yeah. My father was a navigator in the Air Force. He went to Columbia and he studied electronic warfare. He was in electronic warfare in the Air Force. And, he was stationed at the Pentagon, and then we moved to Belgium, where he worked at NATO. So yeah, my dad worked on
quite a resume.
Yeah. He worked on really important,
see these organizations have been used as social climbing institutions for all sorts of people for generations, and the daughter becomes a model involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, yeah, she was sexually assaulted. I mean, that there's no excuse for that. It's just part of this very seductive but very amoral world. And I mean, I'm not some Bible frapping, Christian of no sex before marriage. And in fact, no, I think, let's just say you don't want to get married too young, and you don't want to have a whole slew of sexual experience behind you. I'm not advocating that like the feminist, but yeah, I mean, take your time, and because sex is part, an important part, and you want to make sure that everything's good there, that there's compatibility.
High profile things I would always ask him about. He'd say, well, I'd tell you, but I'd have to kill you. So like, I didn't really know so much about what was going on. My dad was, he was a great father. He taught me a lot about life and gave me a lot of really good morals. And I did, I had everything I ever wanted growing up, and then, graduated high school in Belgium and then started modeling.
So you were never in America, really?
No, I was in America. Yeah. I lived
how long were you in America as a child?
Half my young child life. So, I lived in Virginia when my dad was at the Pentagon.
I, as a parent, would never want I mean, I have two sons, but I would never want my children in that world, because I know precisely what it's all about. And it's not just all of the nefarious things that are happening. It's also just this perpetuation. I'm like, wait a second, I want you to use your mind to get ahead, not your body. Even it is just to wear clothes and look pretty. We've been doing that for a long time. This is not liberating women.
Makes sense. Just that one. So, but either way, like, was it hard for you constantly having to pick up and go somewhere new and have all new friends? And I mean, you're clearly a very friendly person, but still, like, you have relationships with a ton of people, and then suddenly it's like, oh, we're going somewhere new again. Was that difficult?
Well, I hated it growing up. Every like 2, 3, 4 years, we'd move somewhere different. But, in hindsight, it was like the best thing that could happen to me, because you just get adjusted. You go here, this new state in the US, and then you go to this country in Europe, and then you're back in the US, and you're back in Europe. Right. And, I have so many different friends in different places and just adapting to different types of people. And I've always had a very outgoing personality. I'm a definite extrovert, even though I have introverted moments where I definitely spend a lot of time by myself. I do a lot of self-care by myself, go to the movies or have dinner by myself a lot, but I'm an extrovert at heart. And I've always wanted to be in like the modeling and entertainment world. So that was a big drive for me.
Even as a little.
Oh yeah, I was always that one in front of the camera, doing all that stuff. So my father and my mother and father supported that. My mom put me in beauty pageants. They took me to New York City at 16 years old to meet with the agencies, went in Ford models and elite models, and then I was in a contest at 16 years old and flew to New York. At 16 years old, I went up to the top of the Trump Tower. When I was 16, which is so crazy, that one at Columbus Circle, and I was at the top of that looking down. Was it there in New York City? I was looking.
Yeah, it's just off.
Yeah, right.
Just off the wall here. You can't see it, but it's 57th Street up on 5th Avenue, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 57th, 5th. No, not 5th, on the west side.
Yeah. Trump Tower.
Yeah, down the west side.
Well, there's that one on 5th too. Which
that's where he lives.
The Columbus Circle.
Columbus Circle, yeah.
Off the park.
Yeah, right off the park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember going up there and met like some country music star that I can't remember his name. But I remember looking out over New York like, oh, I'm going to live here one day, So I was always really into just kind of like manifesting whatever I wanted. So kind of put it out there, and then, was in Belgium, graduate high school.
Manifesting whatever I wanted. Oh, this is a gaslighting term. I remember is Nicole King. She's in Marbella. This is the jet set of the Spaniards. And she was reading a book, and she said, no, you just have to, if you want to be successful, you just have to imagine it. You just have to imagine it and imagine it and imagine it, and you just keep on telling yourself, in the meantime, she closes her eyes to everything that's going on with her kids, with her family, with me. She's like, I'm not listening to, she didn't want to know a word about it. Now she's she's a gossip columnist, a journalist, and she's like, oh Lord, look what they're doing to our bank accounts. And I'm like, excuse me, I've been denouncing that stuff for 20 years. Now you're going to have to drink the coffee, and wake up. So, anyway, this whole lifestyle is very self-destructive.
School there, and I was working like in Brussels, Amsterdam, and went to London, and then moved to Miami in the late 90s.
That's a switch up.
It was awesome.
I'll bet it was. Awesome. I like Miami for 4 days. It's a great town, but I feel like if I don't leave after 4 days, bad things will happen. But.
Yeah. Now, but in the 90s, when you probably weren't even born yet, but like in the late 90s, it was like the heyday. All the stars were there, and it was like all the modeling agencies were there. It was really, really fun.
Now, what was it like when you're 15, 16? Because now, like, you can look back on it as an adult, have a way more understanding of the world. Would you describe it as somewhat of a normal experience dealing with the modeling agencies, or was there anything that now you're like, well, that's kind of weird that they did it this way or that way?
Are you kidding me? Like, everything is kind of weird now when I look back on it.
Yeah, Joe worked in it as well. He knows what you're talking about.
Tucker Carlson has his $1 million home down there. Oh, believe me, I love the Keys and Miami. Oh, I want to see these guys in court. One of the reasons I'm like, you want one of those houses down there. Yeah, it's there is something about the Keys, and the water and the just southern Florida. It is beautiful. It is beautiful, and all of billionaires have their little Epstein Islands and their little parties down there. This is still going on, but we only want to put Jeffrey Epstein's victims up on a podium. Everybody else, we still want to shut up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just accepted the way that people were back then. And you have to understand the modeling industry back then was you had to be a certain height and weight and look. You had to be kind of special in a way. It's just different now. Now it's like all different types and anyone can model. But like back then it was very serious. So you had to take it, it was a career and you had to travel around the world. I went to Greece, I went to Cape Town and like build your book for 3 or 4 months, But yeah, in the States, you definitely noticed that there were older agents that would take you to parties and you would be around, younger girls, older men. That was so normal. Maybe they would give you drugs and alcohol. It was very normal.
Even at 15, 16?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You can get in the clubs.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yes. Come on. I don't understand, like, all of these drug addict kids, all of these kids with serious and overdosing and killing themselves. Yet all of these adults, and I'm like, wait a second, what was going on when you were a teenager? It was all over the place when I was a teenager. Oh God, I was like, why am I the one who's always sent in to buy the alcohol? And they're like, because they don't card you. I'm like, no, I think I walked in confidently and I'd buy it. And I'm like, come on. This is one of the reasons why I did not want my sons in the American schools. There's this prohibition, ever since Prohibition. You can't have any alcohol. It's prohibited. It's prohibited. And so we get these Americans binge drinking. It is starting in Europe with the drug problems. But there wasn't that, culture of binge drinking. Now, you do have some of the German football, rugby guys, so you do have pockets of that within, but it wasn't like so culturally standardized as in the United States. And that was a residual effect of Prohibition.
Crazy. It was just the way it was, So when I finally met Epstein, it was like, oh, this is kind of how it is. I mean, the women agents would do the same thing, would take you to these dinner parties with old men all the time. I'm like, don't you have anybody our age?
15, 16 is crazy.
Well, the models back then started around 13, 14, 15,
Oh my
16.
God.
We all started really young, where nowadays they don't start until maybe 17, 18, 19, 20. It's older now.
Still,
I would have to verify that. I highly doubt that. I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
It's weird no matter what, but like the blatancy, I don't think that's a word, but you know what I mean?
In fact, I was waiting the other day and I'm looking at a magazine, in the waiting room. And I look at a girl and I'm like, this girl looks 13 to me. Yeah, I don't think.
Of having a 14, 15-year-old at dinner with old rich dudes or whatever, because they're the new model. And then you wonder how something like Epstein happens. Like,
yeah, exactly. It was just the time.
Yeah.
Did your parents know that was happening?
No, probably not. They never asked me.
And they never asked you about that?
No, I think
they never ask. They just don't ask.
Everyone, all the parents, didn't know. I know of many parents that would line up their girls to meet with John Casablanca at Elite Models. And when they go into the room, they were sexually assaulted before they came out, to go back with their parents. John Casablanca, who was tall and good looking and charming and everybody loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gerald Murray, Jean-Luc Brunel, all these these big agents who, they were assaulting a lot of girls. This is a known fact. So,
yeah. And it's amazing that it took until like Harvey Weinstein in 2017 for people to realize, oh, there's a casting couch. In all these industries.
For somebody to say, this is incorrect. The problem is it was done for money. And they had their the MeTooers, it's for money, but political agenda as well, because they want to replace men in positions of power in commerce and politics and rule the world. That's their ultimate agenda.
Unfortunately, when you have that power, someone like Harvey, it's like, oh, you really want this movie role? Show me how bad you want it.
Right.
Yeah. Like this whole thing is just, that's why I got out of the acting world. I couldn't even handle
it. Now, wait a second. Megyn Kelly, in the interview after the Bombshell movie, openly admits, she says, well, anybody would sexually, service their boss because they wanted to be on TV. And I'm like, no, that's not true.
handle it, how bad it was.
When did you get into that?
Well, I was always like a young actress doing acting classes since I was like, 19 or so.
Okay.
My first film was with Oliver Stone. I booked a role
No kidding.
98, 99.
What movie?
Like right out of high school. I started auditioning in Miami, Any Given Sunday.
Oh, you were in Any Given
Yeah,
Sunday?
I was opposite Jamie Foxx.
No shit.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie. Really great cast.
6 inches in front of your face.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx, I believe, is involved in some stuff.
Wow, yeah, you're good. And then
I was like, no, suck. Don't ever do that.
it was a good movie, but it was a great cast, But I started realizing right off the bat, oh shoot, this is how it works.
But see, since I walked away from all that world and I became a real trad wife, real trad wife who supported my husband's career, gave up my career, which, con mucho gusto, I've been back in DC for 20 years. I've had, in fact, I'm like, I want to see all y'all in court. So obviously I'm not welcome back in the club. So con mucho gusto, I got this whole thing, my career. I'm like, God, get a life.
Yeah, so Jeffrey would send us on auditions with big movie directors.
Yeah, we're seeing that, and we're seeing even darker stuff than that in the emails. Just sending girls to gynecologists, skincare people. Yeah. Oh, she doesn't get out of high school until 4 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
But so do you, looking back on it, when you were 15, 16, so when you come to New York for the first time, how long, it sounds like you were alone when you went there.
Yeah.
You stay there alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At 15, 16.
Yeah.
So they put you up at a hotel.
Yeah.
You have your own room.
Mm-hmm.
How long, what was the longest time you were there by yourself?
Well, that time I was just
my daughter, I'm like, no.
there for a week. So you should go for a week or two at a time. Yeah.
But that's like a week or two.
I know.
In New York City without your parents and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you looking back on it, were there things that happened there too?
Well, that's normal to bring a 16-year-old, 15, 16, 17-year-old, to New York City by yourself. They put you in a mall apartment and then you go out with the promoters and you go to the nightclubs and you get the VIP room and you're around all these celebrities. That was pretty normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were there hanging out with Leo next to you.
That's what Cornelia Guest was promoting in the 1980s as Deb of the Decade. She dropped out of Foxcroft at 15 in order to promote all of this.
All sorts of celebrities and things since we were really young.
Did you ever say I'm 15?
I don't think anybody really cared, like that girls were underage, or
No.
I don't think people really cared. I think it was just kind of accepted. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody cared.
That's hard to that's really hard for me to process. I know this stuff happens.
Yeah.
But the normalcy with which you're talking about, oh yeah, they all did it. 13, 14, 15. Yeah, you come for a week, you stay without your parents, they take you to clubs and promote it. It's like,
yeah, but you're supposed to be protected. Like, who's protecting you?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you feel like you're protected. I'm in a mall apartment. Okay, I go out to these clubs. They want you to socialize. Your agent is usually with you. You know what I mean? Agents would give you some Coke or something in the bathroom. Like, agents would give you during that time, not now, but during that time, it was definitely things were more accepted. Then you would go to your agency and you would get your castings for the day and you'd run around to castings, literally to hotel rooms where there's photographers. Like, you would go to hotels and meet with photographers at hotels. It was the strangest thing.
Hollywood has been producing movies about this lifestyle for decades. Where's everybody been?
And then they would book you on jobs where you're flying to Hawaii or the Caribbean, for a few days shooting with these people, and there's a lot of women there, and most of the time nothing really happened, but every now and then you were with a photographer who wouldn't leave you alone, so there was a lot of these things going on.
Did you ever feel pressured to have to hook up with somebody?
I guess I would say yes. I think I felt pressured quite a few times. Yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely yes. I think any model would say yes. And on many occasions, it's probably happened to most models and actresses. And then you would go back to your agency and tell them, so-and-so, this French photographer wouldn't keep his hands off me. He was touching my nipples, or putting his hand by my private, like things, just, little things like that. I would say something like that to an agent and they would just say, oh, it's just how he is, things like that. So things were just kind of accepted. Yeah. And then when I became a Ford model, Katie Ford used to take us to these parties and these charity events where you're all these girls at a table and then all the rich older men would sit next to you and you'd have to have a conversation with them, and she would tell you how to use your knife. I already knew how to do this, but use your knife and fork, elbows on the table. Like, they would want you to be like a little lady, while you're just having a conversation with like a 60-year-old man. It's like,
yeah, this is what the debutantes, the debutantes, this is being a debutante.
I don't know if they ever stop to think that that's probably not what young girls really want to do, is hang out with these old guys.
But you're useful to them. to do that. That's how they look at it.
Yeah, that's how, because they're friends. They're just, you know, you're just like pawns for them. I mean, you don't really matter to them.
Yeah, there's a couple things clocking for me. Number one, what you're describing right here, I'll be conservative and say it's not much different from some form of sex trafficking. And if I want to be really just off the cuff with this, it sounds like sex trafficking to me. I'll let people in the comments decide that on their own, I guess. Yeah. But the second thing is the years where this is happening to you psychologically, 15, 16, 17, 18, you're getting desensitized to all of it. It is being ingrained in you as...
If anybody wanted to really challenge any of this lifestyle, then they wouldn't be telling me, shut up, stupid, shut up, stupid, shut up, stupid. Go and jump off a bridge.
A young girl, that this is normal. This is how things work. Oh, you want to have this career or whatever? You have talent. Lisa, you'll be great at this, but you got to do these things. And it's what I look. Everyone else is doing it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess in a way. It's kind of like that. I mean, it's no one really says it like that, but I think you kind of have to play along a little bit. You learn pretty quickly when you speak out, or that nobody really cares, or you should be quiet. Yeah.
Did your parents
You'll
ask
be
you
replaced. There's all sorts of girls out there who want to live like
about anything that ever happened when you were away from them for a week at a time in New York? Ever?
No. After I left home, I was by myself, living in countries for 3 to 4 or 5 months by myself. In countries. I lived in Greece by myself for 3 months. I lived in South Africa for 6 months by myself. So I was traveling, and it was pretty normal up until maybe like 5 or 10 years ago to travel at a teenager to these countries by yourself. I mean, I saw crazy shit happening, like in Greece and other places, you know. Yeah, just weird stuff. And usually involved like drugs or alcohol, or, you know, photographers, or, you know, clients or crew, you know, just expecting girls to do certain things. I mean, you would push back as much as you can, but I think you could find pretty quickly that the more you push back on things, the more you're not really accepted, or your career doesn't advance. I think that's the reason why so many people leave the modeling business, and especially the acting business.
Yeah. And it does seem see it all.
One of the people the most recently that I've contacted, who looks like she's ignoring me, is Stephanie of Monaco, who was Princess Grace's daughter, or who is Princess Grace's daughter, who has passed away now. But I haven't heard back. See, she was a victim of that whole lifestyle. I mean, she participated, she went to Hollywood and all of that, so she should understand the dysfunctionality of it, but I don't know. I guess I'm not going to hear back from her either.
All the time, and like you were saying earlier, it's, you know, we're talking about abuse of girls and boys and everything.
Yeah, don't get me started on the boys. It's pretty bad.
Within Hollywood that you've seen?
In the modeling business.
In the modeling business. I've heard a lot about that too.
Yeah, Abercrombie boys,
And they gotta...
See, the feminists are very silent about the boys because this helps in the you know, dominating in their oppression and their castration as young men. So that's... You know, the feminists have been very silent about that. And that's one of my big divides with them.
You put someone who's got like a dream to be able to get to this point or do this thing, and then they're young and they get sent somewhere far away to do it. And then it's like, well, you just got to do this thing and you'll get it. And their mind is groomed to be like, well, I guess I just got to.
Yeah, it's a really sad business in that way. I mean, I knew a lot of male models who went for like big castings with huge photographers and were assaulted, you know, and like if you didn't do something, then you don't get the job. And I knew boys that walked away from it. It's like, F you, I'm not doing that. And would walk away and just give up on their careers, you know. And then I knew some who, you know, had a lot of shame around, you know, things that they did or didn't say no to, or yeah. That's why I've always told you when I speak out, it's always for the men too. It's not just for women.
Right.
Yeah.
What was now you wanted to become a model, so you put yourself in a position to do it. But then once you were in it, you're around all these people from the business, the masters of the universe, if you will.
Yeah.
What was modeling scouting like back then? That's always a term, like you said you did it as well. We can get to that. But like whenever I hear that, I'm like, do you just like walk on the street and watch people pass by and go, oh, she's good looking. Ah, he's good looking. Let's talk to him. Like, was that what it was back then?
I mean, back then, not really. I mean, you do some street scouting. Obviously, if you see someone who has potential, you go up to them and, you know, you hand them your card, and you always tell them for their mother or father to contact you. And then you say, you know, then they come into the agency with a mother or father. That's how I've always operated. I mean, obviously there's scouts out there who don't operate like that. I mean, for me, I loved it.
Yeah.
I really loved it. I would travel to all these countries and I would actually meet with agencies. So in each country of the world, let's say Sao Paulo, Warsaw, you know, I went to Bratislava, like Croatia. I mean, China, no matter what
You went to
country.
China too?
Yeah. No matter what country you go to, there's many agencies within those countries. And so you go as a scout, you meet with that agency, and one by one, the models come in. And I'm a woman and a mom now, but I think I was a mom then when I was a scout. Yeah. So when I would sit there with the models, you'd evaluate them, take their photos and videos, and then you send it to the New York agency, and whoever they like, they organize the visas and they come work in the US. That's how it works. Now, how these men were doing it was a little different. They would have a casting probably at the hotel, and, if you want to model.
Well, I mean, Virginia Giuffre did the same thing for Jeffrey Epstein. She says Ghislaine Maxwell as well. This was their MO. It was, but you're just going to have this one guy, and you're going to give him massages instead of modeling.
The ones that probably didn't have potential, maybe they would do certain things. So there was this underground of abuse and assaults that were happening just right at that level, even before they even got to New York.
Oh yeah.
And then they were sending them to the people in New York, like MC Squared, Jean-Luc Brunel's agency. That was Epstein was funding that agency, and bringing them there, and poor things, having to do things like live in the mall apartments or have to go see Epstein or others, and they were getting assaulted left and right. I mean, this is the higher level of modeling. I mean, even like our biggest agencies.
But painting that this was the men who were involved with allowing these girls to be assaulted, whereas the protective women like her, weren't doing that. And in fact, when we look at the statistics and the reports by the UN itself, for example, the UN in-depth study on all forms of violence against women, it does clearly state, the women are the principals in the human trafficking of women and children. So painting that this is like, oh, but the men treated the girls differently. In fact, when you get into human trafficking, the women are more vicious than the men.
In New York.
Or as vicious, and often more.
Even the women that own these agencies and that were the director of these agencies, in the files, there's emails of them sending their girls to Epstein. I mean, in Paris, there was an agency that just came out too that was also saying, oh, I got a nice 16-year-old Brazilian. Can I send her over to you? I'm sending him over to Jeffrey. I'm like, why are these women sending young girls to Epstein? Do they not know why? Like, why would this older man want to see these girls? Like, do they not even think about it? Or is it the relationship with them too important, or the money that he gives their agencies, or whatever it is, the clout? I don't know. Why is it so important that these older women are sending young women? And
I was a stay-at-home mom and, involved in my community. I knew what was going on. And in fact, I was working to better that. And my whole Global Expats project is because I do have experience that there's a lot of issues going on in these different agencies. And just like Carol Curtis Brown, who started the Federation of American Women's Clubs overseas in 1931, I believe, you have the network of trade lien spouses and globally mobile families to ensure that this is not happening under our watch, like it did under all of the preppies and yuppies that I know. Cornelia, Tucker Carlson, he's in there. All of these people. And it's still going on, and they're still shutting me up.
Teenagers to Epstein. Do they even know that Epstein has now taken these girls, putting them in his orbit, and then trafficking them out?
The term that keeps coming to mind as I read these files and reading the same things that you're describing right now, of which there are, that I know of hundreds of examples like this, which means there's probably thousands. I just think the term vampire. It's like this, the people who do these types of things
this is why vampire movies and all of this, like zombies and vampires, has become so popular in the past 30 years, at least. When I got back to the States in 2009, they were already doing that.
Young girls, young boys, or just take advantage of anyone sexually, regardless of age, period. There's a shame that with their power they put into that act that is symbolically, to me, the same thing as vampires biting someone's neck in any, fictional fantasy story you've read. And the idea is like, it's the ultimate control, and I own a piece of your soul.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like I own you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when they
in all of the literature on domestic abuse, it's not the violence, it's the power and the control. And that's what cool.
send, what did you say example was, a 16-year-old, I have a 16-year-old Brazilian for you. No name, just the age and the ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
Go take a piece of her soul, then she'll do whatever we want. That's how it reads to me.
Yeah, but isn't it funny that you have these Epstein files? And it's like you're expecting to see, these men who are abusing young women and teenagers, let's say. We've kind of all known it.
All of the labor markets, in fact, the corporate labor markets, this is how they want you to see all of your workers.
About that for a long time now. I just find it really kind of peculiar that now we're seeing emails between men of talking about like a 7-year-old. Like, why would you not think, just from seeing emails that have to do with a child, why would you not investigate that? Would that not tell you that there's something really, really, really wrong in the minds of some of these men?
Well, look,
Do you know what a 7-year-old looks like?
You're talking about the most obvious example in the world, but go all the way to the top of the pyramid here. How about the fact that the man who owns the company that among his holding companies has the biggest female lingerie
What about her father? There's a lot of hypocrisy.
brand in the world, who gave all the wealth that we know of, I shouldn't say all, a large portion of the wealth that we know of personally to Jeffrey Epstein, and gave him power of attorney and shared businesses and trusts with him that sold houses to Howard Lutnick's of the world, by the way. Fuck you, Howard. But, how about the fact that that guy was still covered up in these documents until Ro Khanna came out and said his name? He was still...
He brings up the real estate market, the people who are selling these properties to all of these wealthy people, and don't ask where, how they made their money. They don't care.
Never arrested. He was never interviewed. To this day, they're about to go depose him at his mansion, by the way, on his turf, and some congressman in Ohio, but he was never even questioned by the DOJ. And yet in the documents themselves was listed back when Jeffrey was arrested as a co-conspirator. So you talk about, of course, the obvious examples. Oh, they're talking about a 7-year-old right here. Yeah, I think we should investigate that. But the dude at the top of it with him, or that we know of as the top, gets to live in America with all his billions of dollars, run all his companies for free, no problem, and doesn't even get questioned. Meaning, what the point I'm getting at, Lisa, is it is much deeper than just all the horrible individual examples we see. It's like, if you go to dig a hole and your goal is to dig a 30-foot hole, well, if you don't dig the first foot, you're never going to go to 30 feet. We're talking about things where we should be going to 30 feet. They haven't gone to the first foot.
Oh, I agree. You dig really, really deep.
Right.
Now. Yeah.
But you cynically seem to share my opinion that someone like that probably won't end up in prison.
Yeah. Too much money.
Is that all it is?
Well, how do you know that they haven't called him in and showed him all the unredacted files? Like, this is what we got on you. And it's pretty depraved, and maybe he just paid him off. There's got to be some type of leverage here. I just don't believe for a second that you have that much information on an individual and they haven't tried to do something.
I agree with you, but not on the method.
Yeah.
As much money.
There's speculation with Erica Kirk that she traveled to Washington to assist in redactions because she didn't want her name coming up.
We look up Les Wexner's net worth.
So not on the money, but maybe some other leverage?
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
Yeah, to make the point.
I always think it's about money, but what do you think it's about?
There's money in all this, to be clear. I shouldn't, that's unfair of me to dismiss that. I'm not trying to do that. But what's he worth, ballpark?
9.1
billion. All due respect to his 9.1 billion, that's a shit stain ashtray money when you're talking about the United States government, which in debt alone has, what is it? I don't know, 38 trillion, whatever it is. Guys like that, guys like Jeffrey Epstein, who gets a sweetheart deal like he did in 2008 after you said it was known he abused 43 women girls, underage, 12, 13, 14-year-old girls on record, and gets basically nothing for it. Their leverage goes well beyond money.
Yeah.
It's information, and it's dirt, and it's on people.
See how every time young women, girls, they redirect with this conversation back to it's girls. Is this, at least Megyn Kelly, I am on agreement with her on this one, and the legal and definition in the dictionary of post-pubescent girls this is no longer pedophilia. Okay, so we're not talking about pedophile. Once they start, looking like young women, we are talking about young women. Okay, and once they start looking and acting like young women. Now, you're not going to let your 10-year-old, 5-year-old go on a yacht by themselves with a whole bunch of adults on there. Well, even if at that age, okay, a yacht's a bad example. Let's say to a birthday party where you can't fall into water. But you get my point. So, but say your 15, 16-year-old daughter is going to some party. Now, only adults there? No, she's going with a girlfriend to her uncle's house, whatever. You'd be like, oh, okay, fine. I mean, at 15, 16 years old, they start having, as this woman said, she would go and live and be in New York for a week by herself. I mean, at 14, 15, I was traveling alone.
Like, he had, I don't know if you ever had a chance to look and see this in the years that you were around him, but because the whole point was it was hidden, but he would have 80 cameras in one room. If this thing right here, if this were sitting on his table, it would have a hidden camera in it.
I know. I knew he had cameras everywhere.
And you could see some of them.
No.
But you knew it.
No, I never saw them. He had showed me the room once with all the monitors. In
New York? Mm-hmm. What was the context that you see in that room? Was he like, I just want to show you something?
Well, that was the thing about Epstein. He was very much very cheeky about things. He liked to show these things off.
Mm-hmm.
He'd like to let you know on his famous friends, billionaires' friends, little secrets about them. He would tell you little things. He would laugh about things.
What's the fun of doing all of these naughty things if you can't show it off? Of course they.
Yeah, he always had this little grin on his face. I think that was after he I don't know if he to say the word trusted me, but these were the conversations I would have with him. Because I was very curious. I've always been really curious about things, so I would always ask. But yeah, no, he had showed it to me once. I knew, but I don't think he hid that from a lot of people, except for maybe the powerful men that were coming over.
How big is this room that you're talking about?
A little smaller than this room.
All right, this is a big room. This is 18 by 14 and a half. So maybe a 15 by 12 kind of deal? Something like that.
Just where someone who sits at these desks around it and then all these screens.
So someone's in there sitting at the desk watching. And would you see, are we talking 60 screens?
Gosh, I don't know how many.
I'm sorry, that's really specific.
30 or less.
Okay.
Half of that or less, yeah.
And then there's all kinds of mobile cameras and stuff that he has that you don't see in there.
Oh, this is the best technology.
Right.
So people aren't coming in thinking, you're coming over for business with Epstein. I'm sure he has a really good business, and they're fascinated by him. He's really intelligent. He's fun to be around. I'm sure all these people really liked hanging around him.
Yeah.
Then he says, surprise, I have a little, 15-year-old here, and maybe some say, no, I'm married, or no, that's gross. I don't know. But then some are like, what? Just what? I can just go and, they go into a room and then the 15-year-old goes in there and does whatever and then they leave. Then he has it on a camera. We can blackmail you very easily with that. That's what Virginia was doing, underage, with many, many men.
Virginia, in her memoirs that she wrote in 2013, somewhere around that time, she does not make any mention of this ever happening. So this is why I'm skeptical of the testimony here.
Yeah, that's the thing about him, that he was
in the case of Virginia Giuffre, and also with Epstein, I don't know, because she was raped, so he was. But if he as I say, this idea that he's got a girl in there and he's just sending men into the room, I don't know.
Unfortunately, well aware of and very good at. It's even a layer below that. What you just talked about is when he really gets someone.
Because this is not a first-hand testimony of her being raped on the island. But in this point, it's hearsay. So.
But he knew, because of how dirty and radioactive he was, because of the shit he was around, and Ghislaine knew this too. all they had to do was just get in a picture with you somewhere. Something that's not public, right? Just someone's got it on their camera roll somewhere. Just you with a picture with them. And forever, you're going to be like, how well did you know that guy? If you're someone else, right?
Yeah, because
that's why the whole photo of Virginia Giuffre, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Prince Andrew, if it is true, Lady Harvey did a breakdown. She even went into that mansion. She pretended like she wanted to buy it. She went in, she took a picture of that landing where they would have been standing, and she shows that photo has been doctored. The landing that is behind them is very, very, like maybe a foot wide. And in the picture, it's several feet wide. So it's obviously been doctored. She also goes through point by point on the photo. They've never been able to produce an original photo. Now, if you're going to produce evidence, in some kind of legal proceedings, you better come up with the original one. And that this one has been floating around and nobody's been able to come up with the original one, and they keep on, no, it's original, it's true. Whereas, as I say, look at Lady Harvey's explanation of that. She goes through it, and so, this is what I was saying again with Prince Andrew when he's leaning over the new photo that came out. The woman is fully clothed. She's lying on the ground. He's leaning over her. Like at one point, he's kind of touching her stomach. And as I've explained, sorry, I have a bad back. Now, not in public, but I have gotten on the floor in, private settings explaining to people, look, you really got to get your back, because you have to explain to them, here, put your hand under my back, and I'm going to show you, and I'm going to really push that into the floor, and I'm going to really straighten out my back. I'm going to take my knees, and I'm going to push them into my, as I say, I have back problems. And if somebody says, oh, my back, I'm like, oh, here, this is, and then I'll, depending on the crowd, I'll be like, and then you put your legs over your head behind you, and you got your butt sticking up in the air. So obviously, depending on the crowd, but I'm like, and this, you just push, your feet into the ground, and you just stretch out. So the point I'm trying to make here is, obviously, if somebody takes a photo of me doing this, all sorts of things could, be interpreted. Whereas I'm just showing people how to stretch out your back if you have a bad back.
Epstein's protecting these people. He would never have let Virginia take that picture with her camera of her with Prince Andrew. I mean, Ghislaine is standing just right there. It's almost just like
sinister picture.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, if he was really protecting Prince Andrew,
there's nothing sinister in the picture. I don't understand why people say it's a sinister picture. His interview with this Matlin woman on BBC was a train wreck. I'm like, you guys, you keep on repeating that, but nobody can say, like, what's sinister in that picture? There's a man standing next to a young woman. He's got, like his arm sort of around her, but it's not like an intimate embrace. It's like, oh, can you get together for the photo there? Yeah, put your arm there around her. I mean, totally innocent. That happens all the time when somebody, get together, put the arm around there. And then Ghislaine in the background. As she's saying, Jeffrey wouldn't, he was into, like, we got to protect the people, because of course, I protect you, but you better, do as I say, because I might not be protecting you. This is 101.
Prince Andrew, he would have said no picture.
Right. But that wasn't the point. He was a target.
Exactly.
Everybody was a target. And now you can see that in the emails. Like
you can see it in the emails for sure.
And there was a different tone with, at least from the emails I've reviewed with Elon Musk, when you see those emails.
I mean, this is Spy 101. You get the dirt on people. I mean, even I know that.
That he would send to Elon, they were very obsequious.
Yeah, he was just like kind of like playing around with him. What's going to be there? Like trying to find out information.
No. I'm sorry. I should explain that better.
Oh.
Jeffrey, that's what Elon was doing.
Oh.
Jeffrey was very like
trying to get him. Yeah.
You know,
he was,
like
that would have been a good one for him to get. But he never got Elon.
He never got him. Which
Elon, do you know that he recently just said that any survivor that wants to name a name of their abuser, if the abuser comes forward and tries to do a defamation lawsuit, that he'll pay for it. He'll pay for the law fees.
Good for him. I
think that more has something to do with his personal beefs with Trump and than any benevolence on the part of Elon Musk. If that's the truth, Elon Musk, please contact me and we'll get rid of all of this problem real quick.
To see that.
I do hope to see that too.
That's good. Good for him, because
that means he's not on their side.
Again, if you have nothing to hide, then you should act like that. And you should, and because that was the thing, like when they came out, he'd always said, like, release the files. I never knew this guy, never had anything to do with him. It's like, well, you were emailing with him. That's what I had to say was sketchy, because Elon is personally answering these emails. It wasn't even like an assistant or something. It'd be like same day. And it's like, well, you probably should have told us you were doing that. But it does appear from what we can see that he never got him to the island. He did meet him a couple times, but.
And trust me, if he wanted to go to that island and if he really wanted to be around all that, he would have went. But he didn't go for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I that's the kind of thing you need, though. Someone extreme. Unfortunately, you got to fight fire with fire. Just the reality. Someone with extreme power like that, saying to the people that are supposed to be powerless, like, "Hey, yeah, you can be on my team for this.
Yeah.
You have legal problems, I got you." Les Wexner has no money compared to me.
Yeah.
Right. That's good. But you mentioned like Jeffrey being affable to be around, or whatever it was. Like he's like kind of friendly and charming in that way.
Yeah, I think most people wanted to be around him.
Right. It's also. He was almost born with a little smirk on his face.
Yeah, a little smirk.
Right?
Oh, my stomach just turns just thinking about it.
And now you also have a guy.
Charmers. I do know about that. Charmers in the banking system. No, very well.
Who's like, there's so many people who are just quick to say, oh, this guy was really dumb and whatever. And when I hear him talk about science on the limited tapes we have, I think he is out kicking his covered on that and being a little charlatan for sure.
Right.
But when I hear him talk about finance, he bumbles around, but like it's clocking.
Yeah.
He knows what's going on there. He's not dumb. And the thing is, when you kind of have that Coney Island accent, people underestimate you. They're like, this is the fun guy. And then they don't realize like, oh, this dude a shark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like he had that package to be able to make you feel like.
To me, there has to be some sort of extreme intelligence to pull all this off.
Right.
That people pick up on.
Right.
I mean, why would those types of men want to be around him if he wasn't brilliant in some way?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, because they didn't even know that before they'd meet with him. Before they'd get to know him. A lot of them didn't know that,
No, because Jeffrey's not going to put that out there until he knows who's going to be playing.
Yep. That's why when I hear a lot of these guys in the years since it's come out be like, I knew he was a charlatan right away. I'm like, you don't need to say that. It's okay if you. I know you're a smart guy. It's okay if you didn't think that.
Yeah.
Like not clearly you and all these people went in there with him before there were women around in some cases. Like you must have thought there was a there there. And that's that part is okay to admit. Yeah. But like just be fucking frank about it. Don't try to act like, oh, I knew it the whole time. Well, then why did you fucking meet with him 40 times?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. The thing is I've been telling all of these guys. I mean, even with my own case with my ex-husband, people, oh, well, I didn't know. Everything's been posted on the internet. So, people are playing dumb. And, oh, I didn't know. I didn't see anything. This is where I've mentioned Marianne Seigart earlier. And I got to wrap this up because I got to get going. Marianne Seigart earlier with the authority gap, why women aren't taken serious and what we can do about it. Now, her father was a UK barrister, and he was the author of The Lawful Rights of Humankind. I'll pull it up real quick. Where's Seigart? There we go. So, yeah. So, Marianne, her father, this is The Lawful Rights of Humankind. He was born in Vienna, Austria. He died in England. And but there was a book review about his book by Alex Joel. And he said, well, the problem is that he saw was that lawyers wouldn't have the understanding of human rights, the principles of human rights conventions in order to apply them in the courts. And I completely agree. But see, that's where the norms and standards that women in society that they're instilling come in. Now, in the case of the Sigart tree, let's see if we can... Singer. Forget if it comes over here. No. But there are several I forget but there were several branches that ended up in the concentration camps and exterminated. Here, I think this is, oh no, that's Lord Hee Haw, that I have in there. So, history.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating, but
and they just don't care.
Let's get to it because we haven't gone there yet. We've been talking about him. Obviously, you spent some time around him, but what was the context of you first meeting Jeffrey? And it was in 2000, you said?
Yeah, I was a young model, had worked my way around, European countries and South Africa, Miami, and then I found myself, moving to New York City. And, I was working with this model agency called Q Models. They're still around, great agency. And booked a job for a cover of a magazine and a spread and booked it with this Eastern European model. And so we flew to Tortola. It's in the British West Indies. It's next to Little St. James and St. John's, that area. And, did the photo shoot for a few days. And then the clients were like, you got a day off, you guys can do whatever you want to do. And we were on this little tiny island. So, the girl that I was booked with, she was like, I have a friend who owns an island nearby. His name is Jeffrey. And he helped me to get my visa to work in the US. He's been really great. He's like a mentor to me. But anyway, he said that we can go to his island, just hang out there for the day. And so the client said we could go. This is really strange, British clients. And so a boat was sent for us. We just got on that boat and we went over to, Little St. James.
What kind of boat?
It was just a little boat. It wasn't anything fancy because it was not that far away, the island, so, it was not that far away. So we got on this little boat. We went over to Little St. James. And then we just hung out there for the day. Like she said, we were just going to hang out. Didn't see or meet Epstein, for a while. I just hung out with the other girls. Now, I always remember there was 2 other girls there, but since the girls have spoken out and are connecting that they were also on the island, I've understood now there was other girls there. But I only remember 2 of them. So we were playing in the pool, myself, the Eastern European girl, and 2 other girls. They were all blonde. And there was an older man in the pool too. And he was just hanging out with us, but he was really just kind of frolicking and canoodling with one of the other young girls. And so I just observed that.
How old are we talking?
I don't know. I don't know. When you're in your early 20s, everybody looks old. I would think 40s, late 40s maybe at that time. I just knew he was my dad's age. Yeah.
If we take one step back for a sec, just when you first got onto the island, you docked.
If this is Jeffrey Prince and, well, it depends on what year she's talking about. I'm not sure. Because with Prince Andrew, Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew was 40. And he was still very good looking. He still would be good looking, but he really does need to lose some weight. And that would help with the PR in this, if he listened.
You get off. Do you see the temple first? Do you see, what do you see?
The temple.
Whatever that thing was.
No, I didn't see the temple or anything like that first. No, I think it was farther back. And I think going up to the island, I could see the structures and stuff. And I thought, wow, it was really beautiful. Gotta remember, we're not thinking too hard about everything back then. So I just saw a beautiful island and definitely saw there wasn't too many structures on the island, just some buildings. And, it was really, I just remember it was a really exotic, gorgeous island. And the pool was really pretty. And
who took you back to the pool? When you get onto the island, who receives you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know who receives us. I'm guessing it had to have been the other young girls. I think it was the other young girls. There was always young girls on the island. So like there was a couple girls that greeted us and brought us in. All I saw were young girls that I was hanging out with while I was there. I only observed an older man who was in the pool for a little while. But he wasn't with us for most of the day. He just was in the pool for a little while, then he left. And then we were all just hanging out around the pool. Then we went into the room just to get dressed, for dinner that evening. And then we went to this really long table on the main house and sat down at the table with the other girls there. And that's when I met Epstein. And he walked in and said hello and sat down right next to me. And he just started asking me a bunch of questions, about like my dreams and ambitions and like what I was doing and where I traveled. And I was just telling him, about, my life and what I was really into and things like that. And we talked a bit, and I had, the one thing that really sticks out to me is I had lived in England growing up. And so I was telling him about living in Oxford, and, he had said he'd been there and knew a lot about Oxford. So we talked about that, and he had asked me if I wanted to meet a prince. And so I was looking at the other girls like, what, a prince? And in that moment, the gentleman from the pool walked up, and he was dressed like he was leaving. So he said goodbye to everyone, and he said hello to me. And then it was brief, and then he just left. So after that, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I met a prince.
That was Prince Andrew who was in the pool.
Former Prince Andrew.
Prince Andrew.
Then he was, yes.
See, former Prince Andrew, they have to, because it really is to disempower him and, denigrate him. They've been pulling the same crap with me, for 20 years. This is all about power and control and Machiavellian game playing of social climbers seeking to depose the haves, the have-nots seeking to depose the haves so they can become the new dominators. I mean, my ex-husband, both of his grandfathers were on the losing side of the Spanish Civil War. There was one thing I was furious with him. It was like, I mean, if one thing I thought we agreed upon was principles of democracy and all of that crap. Obviously, just me.
So I'd definitely seen a prince on the island, didn't really think that much of it. And then we were trying to leave, to go on the boat to go back to the other island because we were supposed to get back because we had work, but then it was getting dark, and Jeffrey said, oh, you can't leave. You have to stay on the island. You have to stay here tonight. And so.
How did he say it?
Well, he just was like, oh, well, it's getting dark. You guys can't leave yet. We can't send the boat back. So he couldn't send the boat back for us to leave on. So I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought, okay, well, I guess we'll just stay here. And so we went to that room. And I remember there was like an outdoor shower, and we got ready for bed. And I was just hanging out with the other girl in the bed, and we were just like chatting and stuff. And I had known her like from my agency, I'd seen her around and stuff. So I felt really comfortable with her and safe with her. And then one of the other girls knocked on the door and was like, Jeffrey's ready for his massage. Let's go. And I was just like, huh? What do you mean a massage? And she's just like, oh, well, Jeffrey likes massages. And then the Polish girl that brought me was like, oh yeah, well, sorry, Lisa, I didn't think that he was going to want to do a massage with you. But, he likes to do these massages, She was like, you can just follow what I do. And then we kind of argued a little bit, like, you go do the massage. And then I turned to the girl who knocked on the door and was like, do I have to? And she was like, yeah, you have to. He said you have to. So I was just like, okay. So I just went with the other girls and walked across the island to his bedroom area where, we walked in, and there was a real massage table, and he was laying on the massage table naked. And there was like a towel.
No towel.
Well, there was kind of a towel on him, but you can see he was naked.
He's just lying there.
Yeah, he's lying there.
The girl who brought her there, this Polish girl, knew what was going to happen. And apparently these girls even got money if they got a new girl, brought in. So, she was just as responsible. She was trafficking.
And then
how long was the walk between where you were and because you're outside?
I don't know. It felt like forever. Right. Because at that point, things had taken a different turn because I just thought we were there to hang out on the island, and we were going to go back to the clients and back to our safe job. But I didn't expect to do a massage. I mean, first of all, I don't even know how to do a massage. So the whole thing just seemed really weird. And I could see on the look on their faces that probably wasn't a good thing. So I just was in the room. And so it turned out to be a real massage where
by this time, anybody with a brain would have woken up to what the situation was. And I admit, she's on an island. Where is she going to go? And this could get very hairy. So I have a lot of sympathy for this woman because you're kind of like, well, I'm going to have to go with this because, what I can't just call a taxi. But my whole thing is I never let myself get into that kind of situation. And that possibility was there.
I remember learning real massage techniques, like how to massage the back.
They're teaching you.
He is teaching me and how to close my eyes and give the massage. I remembered all that because he definitely directed us through. He definitely likes massages. He hired masseuses and all that stuff. So he's probably trying to see if I could be a really good masseuse, maybe to hire me later. I don't know. But he definitely wanted me to do a real massage and the other girl. So we did a real massage on his back and shoulders. But then that's when everything was done. The massage was done. And that's when he flipped over. And that's when he wanted to play with himself and look at our bodies and take our shirts off. And I just looked at the other girl and we kind of just had this thing where we were just frozen like this. And we just kind of just did what he said. And he was touching us kind of aggressively. And it turned into an assault between her and I. And that was just.
Well, I think she misspoke. An assault between the other girl and this young woman, Lisa Phillips. I think what she meant to say is an assault of Jeffrey Epstein of both girls.
Just ended. It just ended after that pretty quickly, and we just kind of ran out of there.
When he first turns over, and any questions you don't want to answer here, you don't have to answer. We can get off this, and you realize this is taking a very, very dark turn. You said you looked at the other girl, did time stop and did you freeze at all? Or was it you went into some form of autopilot, just get through this?
Well, in hindsight, she knew him. And obviously, since she got her visa through him, she probably has done these massages before. Right. So it was a thing where I was looking at her and she kind of held my hand in a way of don't leave. If I was to turn and run out of there, she was holding my hand too and helping me just get through it. And so I just kind of looked at her and just relied on her just to, massage this dude and get out of there. But his demeanor changed. He wasn't this friendly, mentory type person anymore. Now he was a little dark and he just kind of got off on us young girls, so it was kind of that nasty grin he had, that sinister little grin he had, of just trying to just get off and do what he was literally getting off. So, we just had to just.
But this girl, the Polish girl, she obviously knew what they were walking into. I mean, that's no excuse for any man assaulting a woman. But, let's
deal with it until he was done. And then we just literally ran out of there.
Did he look you in the eyes at all?
Mm-hmm.
What did you see when you make eye contact with him?
Well, I know that look with him. So it was definitely a dark look. He was definitely, it wasn't the same person as before. It's definitely a shift in his personality.
Form of ownership kind of thing?
Yeah, in a form of getting off on your fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen that look.
I've heard a lot of these accounts from victims who've been brave enough to speak out over the years, and even young girls who've talked about it. And I don't know, you can't understand it at all if you're not there. You get it, but
I get it now.
You get it now.
Well, because it's never just about a sexual assault. It's not really about sex. It's really about controlling me. So what I saw earlier was a very powerful figure, royalty on his island. And if he had just let me go without assaulting me, I can go run my mouth or whoever. But controlling me in that way of a sexual assault is no, you're going to shut up. You're not going to say anything because now you have a secret and now you did something bad, So it's in a way of making me feel like I did something wrong. So now I have to deal with shame and not the fact that I saw. So if I tell people, then it might be oh, then I have to tell what else happened on that island. So now when I left the island, I didn't want to tell anybody about anything to do with the island. So the assaults are usually to keep your mouth shut.
Right.
People have to understand that. The assaults that he was doing to all the young girls was to keep you quiet. It wasn't to just get off on you,
Or a secret. You're not allowed to say anything. Yeah.
Yeah, because, I didn't see it like that then. Dawn broke and we got on that boat. I never went back to the island again. I got as clear as way as I could.
Yeah.
But also something bad had happened on the island that now that's what was in my mind. I didn't give a rat's ass about seeing a prince on the island. I never really thought about that until a couple of years later when another incident happened. So I didn't really think so much. Honestly, when I started telling my story at first, I didn't really a lot of times even bring up the fact that I saw him on.
But there's nothing nefarious about the Prince Andrew Or, I mean, she says it was the prince. She doesn't exactly say, yeah, it was him. There's kind of a question left there. But he wasn't involved in any wrongdoing. I mean, he was there. Their paths crossed, but that's not proof of wrongdoing.
On the island, because it wasn't the most important thing that happened to me. It was only another girlfriend was like, that prince was on the island. And I'm like, yeah, but she's like, that's really important that prince was on the island. And to me, it never was any important.
See, she was groomed. For her, it was never any importance, but she was told, she was groomed. Oh yeah, it was important. It was important.
It's really until 2019 when Virginia Giuffre spoke out.
Right. Obviously.
See, it was Virginia Giuffre speaking out, where it was like, oh, this was of importance because there was no importance.
I mean, yeah, because your experience is on an awful personal level. I just, that seizing of power exchange is just so dark to think about, because it's like the way you describe it, it's almost like this telepathic messaging that happens that's like, I got you.
Yeah, no, it's a good way of describing it. Yeah, the telepathic thing of just like, the
whole thing about power and control, whether it's the asshole who I work for or with, or some sort of assault, it's all about power and control. Of course, you have varying degrees, and that's what I said earlier. Of course, I prefer putting up with some little snot-nosed brat than having to be out on the streets. But the aggression of the others, it's all about power and control.
I think that's like that with most serial predators and abusers, is that sexual exchange really isn't about sex. It's really just about this control they have over you. Yes. Because it's filled with the shame they know. They put that shame on you.
Yeah. And you said it was relatively quickly. You used that word, but is that just you?
Shame. And I really have to get going. But that whole shame is precisely why after my divorce, even the women in my neighborhood, oh, we got to help you find a new meal ticket husband. I can't get into that story. And I was like, are you kidding? I'm going to get to Washington. This is crazy. We're going to have this wrapped up. Little did I know how everybody was involved in the cover up. But even my mom was, oh, are you dating? Are you dating? See, it was to find, I'll get into this the next time, but to find a handler, somebody who would control me and make sure, and this gets into the handler stuff. I guess I'll do that this afternoon when I get back. But listen to the
You end of thinking it sped up, or might you have been in there for a while?
No, I don't think it was that long. I don't think it was long. Well, the massage was longer, I think, than the assault, but the assault was very aggressive. And he uses tools.
He uses tools.
Mm-hmm. A lot of his assault on this is the same MO he uses as he uses like vibrators and things. So,
were you ever in pain? Like very physical pain?
Yeah, it didn't feel good.
Yeah,
I had never used something like that before. I have a lot of trauma about those things.
Yeah,
so now, even so, that's not my thing.
Do you remember when it was that part was over? Did he
discard you?
Yeah, did he say you can go?
It's discarding, yeah.
Or did he not even say anything?
Well, there's no romanticizing anything, so it's definitely discarding. Okay, done. Bye.
That's what he said.
I don't know I can't remember exactly what he said,
right, okay.
But I know that's how he was. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the walk back to your room?
The walk? You mean the run?
The run.
The run. Yeah, it was kind of like a run back, yeah. What I remember most was staying up all night and staring at the ceiling and literally in fear of he was going to come back, or there was going to be another knock on the door, or there was going to be another request for massage, or there was going to be a flat out assault and just jump in the bed. I don't know what was going to happen. It was just scary. It was just scary just to think that I was trapped on an island. How the fuck did I even get on this island? What am I even doing here? And not even being able to really talk about it with the girl, the girl who brought me.
There was no discussion at all.
Not really. Not really. Just more of an apology. Like, I'm sorry. I think,
said that?
well, I think she thought, because her knowing of Epstein, you have to understand the type of people that he's around and the type of purity they love and the type of blue blood they love is very white skinned, blue eyed and blonde hair thing. And all the girls look like that. And I'm like this exotic girl, you know.
I can't even believe she's doing this.
Even though I've grown up like in Europe and things, you know, my mother's like Indian background. I'm Italian and like Scottish and West Indian. I'm like this multicultural girl. That's how I saw myself. And so I saw myself as kind of being a little bit different than these other girls. Like I looked a little bit different. So I started thinking in my mind, well, maybe he just wanted to do that to me because I was different. I don't know. And maybe she brought me thinking that he wasn't going to do anything to me. Why would he? Why would he do anything to her? Because he likes this type. So I think she thought I was safe. And maybe she would have to do a massage.
Oh, this is psychobabble of the feminist and the MeToo. I mean, come on.
You know, not me. I don't think they thought that he would want me, because when he asked me to go do it, when the girls came, it was like they were like, you have to go do it. He said, you.
I want to come back to that girl specifically in a second, but I'm thinking of a more extreme example that was around Jeffrey that I would love your analysis on. What do you think of someone like Sarah Kellen Vickers, who, at least from what I'm able to see, was someone who seemed to have been abused by him and brought in and groomed, and then eventually becomes order follower, who is bringing in other women, allegedly, I guess I have to say publicly, but you know what I mean, bringing in other women for him to abuse. What do you think of someone like that who started on the one side and ended up on the other? Do you have any empathy for them whatsoever?
Absolutely.
You do?
Absolutely. 100% I do. If she was assaulted and groomed, then she was still being groomed by him. I mean, the love-hate relationship, that trauma bond that you have with your abuser. And that's how Jeffrey operated. Every girl was made to bring in other girls. Like if you were brought to him and he didn't like you or whatever, then he made you bring in another girl, or at least introduce you to your best friends or friends. I believe that the secretaries that were never abused, I believe they're 100% at fault, and they knew what they were doing. The ones who used to hound you to go meet,
like
with
Leslie
him.
Groff and all that.
She was the one who used to call me all the time. I believe, unless I'm told differently, that they should have known better. But I think someone like Sarah Cullen, even if they got a little older and brought people in, I think that's just the grooming that he had, that attachment that he had over you. I know a lot of survivors may not feel this way, but I really believe that sometimes that's just what Jeffrey did, was have that kind of girl. That's what Jeffrey did, was have that type of grasp over you. I don't know what he was holding over her head to make her bring in other girls, but there was 14, 15, 16-year-olds that brought other girls, and lots of them too.
Yes. I have a ton of empathy for the really young girls, like you heard about in the cases in West Palm Beach, where he just made this fucking pyramid scheme with, here's a couple $100 or whatever.
Bring your friends, go to high school, bring more friends.
I just wonder where the cutoff point of empathy goes, because it's tough when you can see pictures from the press of like Sarah at age 28 hugging him on the street 8 years after his conviction, working for him. And you know, this is another example here.
But that's why it's so complicated, right?
It's very complicated, but here's a tough one. It's not guaranteed, but there is some serious evidence that Ghislaine Maxwell was sadistically abused by her father, who was Robert Maxwell was an evil, evil man.
I can believe that.
Does that make what she did empathetic?
No, because most abusers were abused.
Yes.
And you have the choice, and you have that choice to make a right decision in your life, you know, to do right by people. And I do know that a lot of people were, I would definitely believe that she was abused to become an abuser of that massive scale. But that doesn't give them the right to do that.
Of course.
To be a grown woman in your 30s, 40s, jumping out of a car, running after a child to bring them back when she knows that what they're doing is abusing, because she was in on the abuse. I think a lot of the victims who were bringing other girls may not have known so much of how much they were being abused, unless Sarah Cullen was participating.
Okay, as I said, I have to go. Gotta get to work. But I will end it there, because I wanted to leave that question. You know, see, this is, Ghislaine Maxwell, she's the cycle of this abuse, but no, she's different. So leave it there.